Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm not Gary.
And I am Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Girlfriend from Hell, which came out in 1989 from writer, director Daniel M. Peterson, who's also known for films such as Have Love, Will Travel from 2007, Cupid's Arrow from 2010, and Angel Falls in Love from 2012.
Wow.
So just from the titles of those films alone, you can see a recurring theme throughout his movies. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis from Girlfriend from Hell?
Well, the story follows Maggie, played by Liane Curtis, who has been invited to go to a birthday party so that her friend Diane can hook her up on a blind date. Maggie is very nervous and doesn't really like socializing with people. But tonight it's all going to change because she has been possessed by the spirit of the devil, who's being chased by Dana Ashbrook. Chase's job is to destroy the devil before she sucks the life out of all the young men at the party.
You could probably already tell just from the footage that we're showing that this never made it to DVD, yet alone to Blu-ray. This is now a forgotten VHS gem of a movie. Iain, you've got a bit more history with this film than I do.
Well, yeah, I got given this film back in my teenage years by somebody who said, "Hey, you like horror movies? Watch this." And I'm just like, okay, Girlfriend from Hell, just from the VHS cover alone, you know, it's a 80s horror, I thought. And then I sat down and watched it, and by the end of it, in my young teenage years, I was laughing. Because it's just silly. That's probably the only word I can use to describe this movie. It's silly. You start off with two comets flying through space, one red and one blue. And we watch Dana Ashbrook's character, Chaser, crash into a rock and fall off. And you're like, what's going on? Where are we? You know? And you're just kind of watching him wander around this desert planet until a reject Star Trek alien creature attacks him.
Is that supposed to be a bush? Did the devil possess a bush?
Well, he does say the devil can possess anything, you know, hot virgins, Republicans, vehicles. But all of a sudden he blasts this thing and the red comet flies off again. And then it cuts to two people in a car. You've got Diane and David driving along to pick Maggie up. And they're discussing setting up Maggie with Carl. And how Carl is a nervous wreck. And Maggie is a nervous wreck. So maybe they'll be perfect for each other.
It made me laugh when I watched her trying to put on those eyelashes and it's just caked in like glue. And she just puts it on like, and just sticks it to the top of her eyelid. You're just like, it's a wreck. But she's kind of cute. Yeah. And it cuts to Carl, who is also suffering from severe anxiety. And he rushes off and throws up. And, you know, this thing just cues in one of my favourite scenes in the film straight away. Because he only has this one role. And it's James Karen, who you'll recognise from the Return of the Living Dead films, Poltergeist, and he just walks down the corridor in his dressing gown, you know, and it's like, wow, this is really awfully staged, the way he just bumps into his wife. It's like, but the dialogue that ensues, I was just like, for real? Did they just say that?
Oh, Harold, stop it. You ought to give him encouragement, confidence, advice. You never explained to him about the birds and the bees.
What for? Why don't he pick it up the way I did? From the neighborhood slut.
I'm Harold.
Ah, never mind.
I love the way the mum just gives him a whack and he's completely knocked out. And that would be a recurring theme throughout this film, is that the women will hit you.
If you are even of the slightest, even if you are slightly perverted of mind,
Yeah.
you're going to get walloped, smacked, punched and kicked by women.
Son of a bitch!
So now we've got Maggie and Carl, and we're going now to Rocco's birthday party. But we keep flicking back to Chaser. Now, I gotta admit, Dana Ashbrook is pretty awesome. I've always enjoyed his performances. The first one I ever saw him in was Return of the Living Dead Part 2, which James Cameron would be in as well. And I thought his performance in Return of the Living Dead Part 2 was as good as maybe Ash's from Evil Dead 2. Maybe that's just me, but he was just fun in that movie, and the zombies were fun. And then when I saw him coming to this, I was just like, yes, Dana Ashbrook again, I'm a big fan. And yeah, he's just silly as well. Because we go back to the alien planet, and he's sat there and he pulls out the whiskey from his coat, and that coat's got a lot of pockets. Mm-hmm. A lot of pockets.
I think so. With this. With this. It's my transporter.
And then we see this snake go up his leg. And he starts talking to the snake. Oh, you cheating bitch. Suck on this. And he blasts it. And you see the red spirit go flying off again. And he's all agitated. And he changes himself into a blue form. And he goes flying off after it. And you're just like, what's that got to do with the rest of this teen film that's going on? And then we finally cut back to the party. And I didn't notice this before the first time I watched it, but Diane and Maggie are very close. And so when Maggie gets possessed by the devil, Diane is kind of such a close friend to her that she has to put herself in danger to try to save Maggie. But it's that little bit of dialogue that I must have missed when I was younger, where Maggie and Diane are talking, and Maggie says to her, "Oh, you know, you've liked me since 3rd grade, and you know, you're my closest thing that I ever had to a friend." And I'm just like, I get it now. That's why Diane turns out to be the hero.
And, you know, going into this film, having no idea what it's about, never even heard of the film before, 15 minutes into the film, and I was like, okay, so what is this going to be? Because nothing really has happened.
No.
It's really slow, and the jokes have been, well, you know, out there. You know, they're quite a surprise, I'll be honest. And so I was like, I'll give this film a chance to win me over. Because right now, this has the feel and the look of a home video. Yeah. There is no professional finish to it. Straight down to the camera angles. There's nothing inventive, nothing new. The camera is just placed on a tripod in a good enough position, at least, to capture the action as is needed. But the lighting, you know, is pretty terrible. It's pretty just standard. But for some reason, I'm kind of intrigued as to how this will play out. And I'm like, so is this going to be one of those awkward situation, you know, people comedies? Especially when you have Carl and Maggie in the house and they've been pushed together. Like, you two are going to date.
Yeah.
You two will hit it off. And they both stood there and they don't know what to do. So Carl's like, what did my dad tell me to do? Oh, that's it. To stick my tongue in her ear. And so you see them awkwardly there, and he's got his tongue out for ages. Yeah. And then he's like, shall I? Shan't I? Shall I? And he does it, and you're like, it's just...
You got to give credit to the girl that she didn't just burst out laughing and completely ruin... Or she may have ruined the scene maybe 3 or 4 times leading up to that, but it's the look on her face.
Like, what the fuck did you just do? And then they're both like, I'm going to throw up. And Carl's like, oh, me first. Yeah. He runs off and throws up. You're just like... And so then that's when Maggie's like, I'm getting out of this house party. And she steps outside and gets hit with the red sort of energy that we'd seen earlier.
Yeah.
And, wow, that's one hell of a transformation.
Not bad. I could use a little fixing up, though. That's a little better.
The devil literally takes Maggie over and, well, makes her hot. I mean, not that she wasn't hot before. She's just a little bit nervous, you know, a little bit put off with interacting with people.
I hated how this film was like, you know, to when the girls are discussing, they're like, yeah, you don't want to be stuck with a geek.
So what? Besides, what makes you think it's only tough on guys? I mean, women are just as nervous about being stuck with a geek.
And I was like, hey.
It's the 80s, man. They didn't know
Yeah.
that the geeks would inherit the earth. You know? But the weird thing is, I mean, the relationships in this film are strange. They're strange without the devil in it.
Rocco and his girlfriend.
Yeah, I was just about to bring up Rocco and Alice. You know, we cut to these colourful legs, and you see Alice putting up the balloons for Rocco's party, and then Rocco is just all annoyed that he's had to, you know, he's got a birthday party with pirate hats and fish.
Exactly.
You eat fish, and he starts popping the balloons.
It looks like an 8-year-old's birthday party, though.
He starts popping the balloons, and Alice is just like, stop popping the balloons, and she gives him a whack. And like we said, you see a lot of the guys get hit in this film, and none of the girls really take any hits. But he gets punched in the face, and then she kicks him in the head as well.
It's like, you know what? That sort of comedy is fine. That's what's keeping me at the moment from turning the film off. I'm like, I'm enjoying this slapstick humor. It's working.
Yeah, it's when you get to the Bible bashers, that's when it gets really bad.
So, you know, they have the party, or the early part of the party, and they're like, right, now it's time to go to the restaurant. And they're all a little bit surprised at the transformation Maggie's undergone. And Maggie decides, you know what, I'm going to drive to the restaurant. And she spins the car around, she does a loop, and then she takes off, and the other's like, hey Maggie, we didn't know you could drive. When was the last time you did? She's like, 50 years ago. Alarm bells, anyone? And I love this stunt where she careens around the corner and you see this guy just go flying over the top of the car, starts yelling, you fucking bitch! Well, then it cuts to a bunch of nuns. And the head nun is just like, hey, Sister Bean, you cannot be carrying weapons. It's you know, we are armed with the Holy Bible. We do not need firearms to protect ourselves. And they're all sporting great big bruises on their faces.
Yeah,
and like,
they've been
we've been
mugged or jumped.
and beaten and like 3 times this week alone. And then next thing you know, Maggie and her team are careening down the street in her car, and she's on the pavement and she's heading for the penguins. Like, what? So all the nuns go diving into the street. The car shoots right past them. And the first nun's out with her sidearm. The next one pulls out a shotgun. And you're like, and then the last one's there with a freaking Uzi. You're just like,
I like the one with the rocket launcher. It's like, why does she have that on her? Where the hell did she get it from?
yeah, and that's it. You don't see the nuns again. It was just there.
Yeah.
One gag.
One little religious gag, because, you know, she's the
they're
devil.
not done with religion yet. Because then we get to the restaurant. But there's no seats. And I looked at the interior of that restaurant and I was like, really? This place looks drab.
Yeah.
Horrible. Look at the chairs.
It was a bad set.
It was a very bad set.
It was a bad set.
But yep, there's no seating, so Maggie, possessed by the devil, was like, well, screw this. She walks straight into the back of the restaurant. She looks at the table and she, using her devilish powers, reanimates the food.
And then we're introduced to Frida and Ted, the last couple to join the party. And wow, you can just see what religion does to two people, can't you?
Oh, great! We just got back from a fantastic 2-week Bible camp.
We had fellowship with so many wonderful believers. The word of the Lord was loud and
Boring.
And the comedy kind of sticks with this, with the fact that we know Maggie is possessed by the devil, but she's not evil yet. She's actually just trying to have fun. And so she starts picking on Frida and Ted.
I love their introductions. I love the fact that she's not even hiding the fact that she is the devil. No. And when they're all being introduced, and she just goes, and I'm Satan.
Have you both met Maggie?
no, we haven't.
Hi, I'm Frida.
And I'm Teddy.
And I'm Satan.
Oh, isn't she funny? Oh.
It's like, it's just the honest delivery of the line. It's just, that's very good comic timing.
See, I like the belief that the belief that she gives when she's talking about Christianity and God and how he's so boring and how she just wanted Jesus to kind of, you know,
have some pizzazz.
Yeah, some va-va-voom, and you know, he was just like, the meek shall inherit the earth. And then she's looking at the red wine bottle. She's like, this isn't his blood, is it? And I love the fact that every now and again she just starts throwing stuff at Alice. You know, she starts throwing food or spitting red wine at her face. And I'm like, nobody else is noticing this. We're just going to let Maggie, you know, carry on like this because this is perfectly fine behaviour.
See, at one point in the film, I thought that this was going to be one of those warning messages about alcoholism. Yeah. Because she is drinking a hell of a lot. And, you know, the characters have an aside where they're just like, maybe she was drinking before we picked her up. Because she is guzzling those red wine bottles.
Well, she's desperate to get some tequila.
Yes, yeah. Well, she, you know, it's pretty much the devil out on the town.
Yeah.
And, you know, once they leave the restaurant, she just goes around and anyone who walks past, she's just zapping with her powers. She turns the baby into a devil baby. Yeah. I love the fact that Carl, at this point, is now totally smitten with Maggie. He's just like, wow,
yeah.
Like, I never dreamed I'd have a girl who's this incredible. And so Maggie easily just leads him off. And then she's like, hey, Carl, you ever walked down a dark alleyway before? No. And so they walk down the alleyway, and within seconds, a gang of guys steps out from the darkness, and all threatening and intimidating as they can be in an 80s horror movie. And Carl's just like, okay, just beat me up and get it over with.
Why don't you just kill me quick, okay? Just get it over with. Why do you want us to do that? To end my suffering.
And Maggie's just like, oh, fuck this.
Yeah.
She just zaps him with a bit of power. And he's all intimidating and strong. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to fight. And he just keeps crying again. He's like, oh, come on.
I like the way he grabs that little guy. And he's like, Herschel, I know you. I know what you're doing with your daddy's secret porno mag underneath in the basement. He just gives him a bit of a slap in. And it kind of throws him off.
Herschel? Come on, Peterson. Come on.
Oh, I'm not well.
All right, Carl.
That wasn't me, Maggie.
And it's the way that Herschel comes back, beats the shit out of Carl. Carl takes all these hits like a man, and then he stood there with Maggie like, let's go, baby, and she takes the power back. And you just see him just like collapse over, holding his jaw like, oh my God, that hurts. But then it gets to the meat of it. Everybody returns back to Rocco's birthday party, and Maggie has managed to get Carl up the stairs, and she wants his soul for a ride. He gets some silly expressions from Carl's face when she starts riding him. It's the way his head starts spinning.
It's the sound effects that everyone hears sat down in the party. You know, there's no music on. Everyone's just kind of sat down there listening to the sexcapades going on upstairs. You know, I like the fact that one of the guys is just like, yeah, get in there, Carl. Finally, you got laid.
They sure are taking a long time.
Yeah, Carl!
Maggie didn't seem like the type that would do it so soon.
And so, yeah, it's not long before Maggie comes back down and we've seen the remains of Carl.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out, I know that later on in the movie, there's like 3 dead corpses, but I swear over the next bunch of deaths, they use the same corpse each time to show that the life's been sucked out. She's just taking the soul out of Carl. She decides that she's going to make her presence felt with Ted by putting her hand on his crotch and making a weird light appear.
You shouldn't have done that.
Why? You didn't mind, did you, Teddy?
Fuck no.
Teddy!
But then his face doesn't change for the rest of the film.
Well, it's time for the birthday cake. Rocco blows out the candles and makes a wish. And of course the devil's like, I heard that.
Yeah.
Really? That's what you wanted? And then she starts seducing Rocco. Right in front of everybody.
Yeah, right in front of his girlfriend.
And it sort of puts him into a trance. And again, we have more slapstick comedy as she leads him up the stairs. But it doesn't stop him from walking into the wall. And then, yeah, Rocco's led upstairs and same fate befalls him.
And that's it. You at this point, there's no fear. There is no fear. These teens are being led up the stairs and having their souls sucked out. And you actually sit there like, yeah, and? So? It's not like they're getting chopped up with a machete or dragged to hell. They're getting their souls sucked out through their penises.
But you know what I like about it is that there was no nudity. You know, all of the sex scenes are not really, they're not explicit or they're not erotic in any way. It is there for the comedy. And I liked that.
It finally gets to the point where now Maggie is taking control of the house. And everybody realizes that their lives are at risk and she decides that they all decide to run off and hide. But it dawns on Maggie, or the devil, that there's one person she's got to deal with before she actually kills everybody else. And that's Chaser, who happened to turn up just as the devil turned up and she kneed him in the balls and threw him in the cupboard. So she goes to the cupboard to deal with him again, and he starts to wake up. And the interactivity between Liane Curtis and Dana Ashbrook, I always find really, really works, because you believe their relationship more than everybody else's, that he has been chasing her for hundreds of years. They're ex-lovers, and she's got a real chip on her shoulder when it comes to chase her.
If I had a wallet, I'd keep pictures.
Oh, there you go with your bullshit again.
It isn't bullshit. You know how I love.
Oh! I'll be right back, baby.
I'll be waiting for you here, sweetie. What a bitch.
But I really love the scene where he comes up the stairs just as the devil's taking care of Diane's boyfriend, and she's just about to kill him. And he comes in, Chaser comes into the room and knocks Maggie flying out the window. She tumbles down the window, and while she's outside, he turns to Diane and he's just like, is that your boyfriend? She's like, yeah. And he's like, shit. Is he going to be all right? Yeah, shit. Would you ever consider cheating on him? And as he's talking to her, he realizes the devil is getting up. So he turns to Maggie and he's just like, pass me the vase, pass me the vase. Why? It's a surprise. And as she passes him, I love this camera shot. It's where the camera slides back and the devil's already there. And she's like, I'm going to fuck you up. And he hands her the flowers. And she's like, oh. And then he clocks her with the vase. and sends her tumbling out the window again.
Yeah, this is some Three Stooges level of slapstick comedy that this film really does just descend into full pelt.
You get the cupboard sequence as well. Frida and Ted are hiding in the cupboard, and Ted is, well, he's intoxicated by the devil's power. And Frida is just talking to him about, why are you acting like this? All she did was touch your pinky. It's not like I've never done it before. And the look he gives her, like, fuck you, bitch.
You never touched me. And so he grabs hold of her hand and puts it on his crotch.
Will it get you out from underneath her spell? Oh, darn it. It's bad girls like Maggie that make decent girls like me do this sort of thing.
Ted gives himself up to the devil, and the devil's pretty happy about this because, well, she gets a free soul. But Chaser and Diane now have to hunt around the house for the devil. And for me, I always find that this is where it really, really gets silly, because, you know, when you've watched lots of horror movies, especially ones where they're caught in a house, there's a bit of tension going on, suspense. You don't know what's round the next corner. I mean, 1979 Halloween, I always go back to, and Michael Myers could be anywhere. Yeah, not this film. They literally walk around and make enough noise to raise the dead, and the devil never jumps out. I don't know where the fuck the devil went. She's gone off somewhere. But it's when he opens the cupboard and Frida comes out of the cupboard and just starts wailing on Chaser. Just starts beating the shit out of him. And he's just like, what the fuck is with you women? Everybody's beating the shit out of me.
But then as they go to walk off together, his hands drift down below the waistline and they both knock him out again. You're like, okay. And it's at this point in the film that I was having a good time. I was kind of enjoying it. But it was at this point in the film that I was like, I stopped laughing. It stopped being funny. The film continued to get sillier.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I kind of enjoyed the interplay between these characters. And now that they're being killed off, it's like, you're kind of limiting your pool of interactions.
Yeah.
And then it eventually just comes down to Diane and the Chaser with a malfunctioning teleporter jumping between worlds and planets.
Yeah.
And I was like, but, you know, the whole momentum is gone. And it really dragged when Chaser decides, you know, now's a good time for a backstory. And it's like 10 minutes of how Chaser became Chaser.
Yeah.
It's just like, this was not needed at all. It serviced only to pad out the movie. However, it did employ one joke which I thought was quite funny. And that is when Chaser's there in front of the pearly gates,
yeah,
and God is sat there, and he's like, yeah, God's a lot shorter than you think he is. And it's when God pulls out his book of sins, and then keeps producing Polaroids.
Yeah,
he's like, these are all of your sins, and there's just more, and more Polaroids. It's like, yeah, that was kind of funny, but there was just way too much backstory between how these two characters, Chaser and the Devil, became lovers, and then how he died and then became recruited by God to hunt the devil.
No, he died first and then was recruited by the devil recruited by God because of his sins to hunt down the devil. And then the very first mission down to Earth,
he falls in love
with the devil and they end up having a relationship. He then obviously goes back to God and God's just like, you've been fucking the devil. You're now stuck. You cannot enter heaven until you've killed the devil.
So I get to heaven, and he tells me I've been screwing the devil. I couldn't believe it, but that son of a bitch had those damn Polaroids again.
But it's like you keep saying, how do you kill it? And yeah, you're right. I mean, the film was losing momentum before they teleported away. So yeah, they're just like, we need to pad this last 10 minutes before they get back to Earth.
They end up on the canyon planet from the beginning of the
Yeah,
film.
yeah.
And it's all a case of, oh, it's all your fault. No, it's all your fault. You broke the device. And then they just continue to work it out. And then, and Diane's just like, maybe this guy's not so bad after all. Until he makes another perverted comment. And then they... and this is, again, where I was just like, you were doing so well.
Yeah.
And then they jump to a strip club. And then we have our boobs.
Boobs.
But I was just like, but this film just didn't need it. It didn't need it.
No, see, that's the funny thing. I always found that Chaser's character, if maybe you'd put the backstory at the beginning, had the focus on Chaser chasing the devil, and the teens are just the sideline, that would work.
Because he's now the main character for the last third of the movie only.
Yeah, and you had him at the beginning, so you're like, who is he? But then you don't see him until the devil finally turns up. And with all that extra stuff with the teens, you're like, are the teens the main character? Are they the main focal point? Oh no, they've all been killed off now. Now it's the relationship between Devil and Chaser and Diane, and Diane trying to rescue Maggie. So in a weird way, that all works, but everything kind of leading up to that was all kind of jumbled and all over the place. But boobs.
So Diane, not too happy with the state of affairs, teleports them to a gay bar. I was like, well, I guess this device is really working now if you've mastered exactly how and where you want to teleport to.
See, the funny thing is, I know using sets within film that obviously we're kind of confined to the planet Earth. And so at the beginning, when Chaser and the Devil land on that desert planet, it is just a desert in California, But as they end up just flying around to places that are kind of recognizable to Earth and to human beings, I reckon that transporter is just calibrated to always bring them back to Earth.
Yeah.
Even though you're supposed to think, oh, they're on this weird alien planet, you're like, nah, they're not really. Because look, they've just gone to a strip club and now they've just managed to swing to a gay bar. And then they've ended up on a beach somewhere, And then all of a sudden, they're right back at Diane's house. And Chaser falls out the fridge, I think.
Diane! Diane! She's probably with that blonde guy from Animal House.
But then you've got the last 10 minutes of the movie, and wow, what a final fight. They finally meet up with the devil, and Chaser basically melts her heart.
Wow. Who knows? Maybe we could have worked it out.
You broke my heart.
I know I did, and I'm sorry. Let me make it up to you.
How?
Why don't we go away for the weekend? We'll have one last fling together. After we get back, you can go ahead and kill me and burn my soul for eternity. How's that sound, huh?
Can we go to Disneyland?
Of course we can.
This is what always surprised me with this film, is the fact that you're expecting blood and guts and death with a film with a title like Girlfriend from Hell, and she's got the devil inside her. And then Dana Ashbrook stands there with his, weird quiffy hair and his glasses, and he just basically says, yeah, baby, we'll go to Disneyland. And then hits her with the transporter after she's given back all the souls to all the people that she's killed in the film, and she flies off.
But then Diane's just like, you bastard! I can't believe you just did that to the devil! Like, oh.
She gives him a whack again.
Okay.
He's like, I saved all your friends! Didn't you see I saved all these people? And that's what makes me laugh, because, Chaser is a perverted git. He's always thinking about sex, he's always thinking about himself. But he does get the job done at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I'd happily watch him next to Ash. Ash and Chaser in a film, that would be awesome.
Despite this film having many, many flaws, it is a film that is so bad that it is quite amazing. Very entertaining. Memorable scenes, Carl's dad at the beginning.
Yeah.
Explaining, how to learn about the birds and the bees. The guy jumping over the car. the penguins, the restaurant scene. I love the transformation. I think the actress did a very good job going from this meek little girl into playing the devil. And you could tell she had a lot of fun doing it. And her timing of her lines and her delivery was very good. And it actually elevated this comedy quite a lot.
You people, it's me. I'm coming to get you, so get really, really scared.
Oh no, Teddy! What are we gonna do?
I should also say I really enjoyed the music for this film. I think some of the songs must have been written for the film because they really work quite well, especially the opening and closing theme music to the film. I also think it's really interesting that in 2011 there was a stage musical for Girlfriend from Hell, and I was like, how did this obscure film from the end of the 80s still hold up in musical form today? And I've watched some of the highlights of this musical online, and I was like, wow, that's really funny.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
For me, some of my favourite scenes, Carl's dad telling him to stick his tongue in the girl's ear, and then when he says to his wife, your sister used to love it, and his wife gives him a whack. I enjoy that moment. The nuns on the street with the guns, especially the one that whips out a rocket launcher, it's just like, what the fuck? Who thought that was a really good idea? Because it really works. I love the gang fight. You see those three guys in the background like, yeah, go on, get him. And then Herschel gets his fucking ass handed to him, and they're all just like, they're all completely nervous up until the point where the devil slaps up all of their asses. The cupboard scene with Frida and Ted, Teddy's face always gets me going because he just, you just got to ask yourself what the devil did to his penis to make him act like that, and then just for him to happily hand himself over to her later on, must be worth it. I love the scene where Chaser opens up the cupboard and Frida beats the shit out of him. In fact, I think I enjoy all of the scenes where Chaser gets the shit kicked out of him. And then my final favourite scene will always have a special place in my heart is when the devil comes up to that window and she's just like, I'm going to fuck you up. And he whacks her with the vase.
I'm gonna fuck you up. Ah.
It's brilliant.
I do have to recommend the film because it is entertaining, it is silly, it is slightly perverted, and I had a good time throughout most of the film. Like I said, once it hit that hour mark of its hour 30 runtime, it started to lose my interest. I found myself sort of checking emails, and I was like, I should pay attention to the film, but it lost me. But that's not to say I wouldn't watch it again. I would watch it again. I think this film can actually become more entertaining and more hilarious the more times you watch it. I think it's a shame that it never went to DVD. I don't know what happened there. But this is definitely deserving of a cult following.
Yeah.
I think more people should actually check it out, despite the fact that it's going to be very hard to do so. Although there is a full-length Laserdisc rip, I think, on YouTube at the moment. So you are also able to check the film out. But like I said, I've warned you, you might lose your interest. The slapstick comedy is going to be hit or miss for you. Some of the jokes are really funny, and the timing of some of the actors is spot on. So it's a hit and miss film, but it's so bad, it's really good.
I definitely recommend Girlfriend from Hell. It's a gem from when I was younger. It's silly, it's stupid, it's everything other 80s horror movies just weren't. And on top of that, you get Dana Ashbrook, who's fucking awesome.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.